everyone. So this video is going to review an introduction to the market revolution. You want to be making sure that you're adding to your notes, and let's get started. So first off, let's examine and review the causes of the market revolution. First off, there's a huge increase in population in the United States. It doubles once by 1825, and then in another 25 years, it doubles again. And that's really due to immigration and a high natural population growth with a high birth rate. We also see improvements in transportation. Various inventions will help facilitate those improvements in transportation, such as interchangeable parts, the mechanical reaper, the steel plow, and the telegraph and the sewing machine, which you can all see pictures of that to the right. So there's the mechanical reaper, a way to use some type of animal like a horse or an ox or a donkey to harvest grain. The steel plow made it easier to plow the fields with a stronger metal. Telegraph, that's using Morse code to send information over wires. Think of it as the precursor to the telephone. And then of course the sewing machine to help put clothes together in a much more faster way than hand sewing something. And then finally, of course, we have the increase in cotton production by the way of the cotton gin, which was invented in 1793, really leads to the rise of the first sector of industry in the market revolution, which is textiles. So let's dive a little bit deeper into some of these topics, and let's start with immigration. As you can see on the kind of fuzzy chart, immigration to the United States drastically increases during the decade of the 1840s as well as the 1850s. And that really has to do with various push factors in Europe, such as the Irish potato famine in the 1840s, really pushes a lot of people. There was a virus on the potato blight, so the harvest was decimated, and the revolutions, political revolutions across Europe in 1830 and 1848. Pull factors include the idea in America that land is incredibly cheap for sale comparatively in Europe. There's also the freedom of religion to practice any religion you wish, as well as cheaper transportation costs as steamboats increase and get more reliable forms of transportation. Specifically, there are two groups, the Irish and the Germans. There's around 2 million Irish will immigrate to the United States in the 1840s, and we see high discrimination rates because they were Roman Catholic. The Irish will generally settle in northeast cities. The other group would be Germans, around 1 million in the 1840s, and they predominantly were wealthier and could afford to buy land in the Midwest. So think Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, and Indiana. This is a famous political cartoon. I want you to pause this video and first identify the people and what's going on. Make sure you read any captions and then apply your historical knowledge. So if we're going to identify what's going on, we see two people. They're Irish and they're German immigrants, supposedly, or at least we're identifying them as Irish and German because they are labeled on the barrels. They're holding a ballot box. A ballot box is where you place votes in elections, and there's a polling station in the background. You can make out the word polls, election for polls. Polling station is where you go vote. And there's riots or some type of fighting, chaos, violence in the background, right to the far left. So what does that mean, right? The barrels, the fact that they're labeled and they're wearing them as clothing suggests that these people are drunkards and making the United States morally corrupt. And what are they doing? They're sneaking away while there's a riot going on, meaning that they're stealing ballots. There's an accusation here that they're not really American. And that's in response to the surge of immigration that's happening in the 40s and 50s and also the 1830s. There's real anti-immigration sentiment as not being real American, of corrupting society and bringing poor morals to the US. So here we have advocates both in favor of immigration and against immigration. Business owners in need of labor were mainly in favor of immigration because they're the workers that they would hire. Land speculators as well, who are selling land in the old Northwest Territory, Ohio, Michigan, who are selling land out in the West, also were in favor of pro-immigrants and pro-immigration policies because they're the people they would sell land to. And those people living in the West who are trying to gain votes. People who were against immigrants we sometimes called nativists, and there's actually a minor third party that will develop in the United States called the American Party. They're also known as the Know-Nothings for their secretiveness that they would have. They wouldn't talk about it. When asked about anything related to their political affiliation, the members of the American Party would say, "Oh no, I know nothing. I don't know what you're talking about." Generally, those who were in favor of anti-immigration or nativists were US citizens who competed with factory jobs, which were often low wage, and also the Whigs, which are going to be a new political party that forms in the second party system, which we'll talk about later on this unit. In terms of improvements to transportation, we have the development of roads. Most of the internal improvements are actually funded by state governments. However, there is one exception, and that is the Cumberland or the National Road. It goes from all the way Cumberland, Maryland, through the Midwest, going into the heart of Illinois, ending in Valandia. And it's over 600 miles long. Later on, they'll pave it in the 1850s with asphalt, right? But this is the only one that's funded by the national government. The other big improvement in transportation would be canal building. Canals are basically a way to connect lakes and rivers to increase the flow of transportation. Look at the cost savings here. Using a turnpike or a road, a person could move 1.4 tons of material 18 miles a day. With a canal, you can move 100 tons of material 24 miles a day, right? So the cost savings of canals really increase shipping in the United States and the movement of goods, particularly with the Northeast. That would be New York and New England with the Midwest. So we see a better connection between the Midwest and the Northeast. And that is because of the Erie Canal. You can see on the map, it's over 363 miles long. I think maybe 380 is what we're close at. And it connects the Great Lakes on the Erie Canal, Lake Erie, starting in Buffalo, New York, going across the state and linking up in Albany with the Hudson River, which then connects with New York City, one of America's biggest harbors, definitely during this time period. There's also over 30 locks. Now, a lock is basically a boat elevator. It's a way to, oh my God, I don't think I'm recording. Oh God, oh wait, I am, sorry. New platform. The locks are basically boat elevators. So the boat enters the lock. As you can see, I'm playing the video here. They're going to secure the boat, and then they're going to raise the boat. And as you can see, water is pouring in, and there's little doors in and out. When the water level is equal on the other side, they will open the door to release the boat. And as you can see the river on the other side. Right, the Erie Canal is still working today. We don't really use a lot of shipping there. It's more for the tourist site. To read a little bit about the Erie Canal, I want you to pause and watch this video. I'll link it below. And take notes. Big questions to consider. Peter Sagal is going to interview Peter Bernstein who wrote a book about the Erie Canal, and I want you to think about three things. What was significant about the engineering of the canal? What was required to build it? Who was building it? The key players, and then of course, what's the impact of the Erie Canal? Finally, we have the development of railroads. Railroads come a little bit later, really in the 1830s, 40s, and 50s. But railroads are slowly developing, and the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad was the first one, completed in 1827, and they were built by individual companies. And they built these rail lines to connect canals with other towns that are a little bit off the canal route. And later on, we start to see a huge network developing. The big place for in the Midwest where you see a lot of railroad hubs is the city of Chicago on Lake Michigan, which is here. Simultaneously, we have the rise of the factory system. The factory system is using machines and workers to mass produce things. It was first developed in Britain, and then it moves to the United States. And the first area, the first sector you have is the textile industry. Machines increase the production. This is not, however, the moving assembly line. The assembly line we're going to save for after the Civil War. And that's a Henry Ford car development. But factories are first brought to the United States by a guy named Samuel Slater in 1791. He builds the first factory to create cloth. But the person we most associate with the textile industry in the United States would be Francis Cabot Lowell, who established the Lowell factory in Massachusetts in 1813. This was a way to massively produce textiles, clothing for Americans, but also it gave jobs to women who were mostly unmarried and from New England. So that's another thing we're going to look at later on, later this unit. The last innovation that's really going to spur the market revolution would be slavery. Slavery was a continuity, it's as you all know, but there's an invention in 1793 that really transforms the economic quote-unquote necessity of slavery, and slavery becomes fixed in the US economy. And that is the invention of the cotton gin. By the 1820s, the demand for slavery in the South grew, requiring a large forced labor for the cultivation and harvesting of cotton. You can see this map here of the United States in a period of 30 years. You see the movement of slavery out of the eastern seaboard, moving out of the mid-Atlantic states such as New York, and moving more southern and more western. This area around Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and moving south, we call that area the Deep South, and this corresponds with the cultivation of cotton. Finally, we have the major impacts of the market economy. We'll be discussing this further on this unit, but there is a growing income imbalance between the rich and the poor. There's a difference between the agrarian, the farmers in society, and those who make wage labor. However, there is a general average increase in income. We also have the development of the corporation of large businesses that have the ability to raise capital or money that are needed to build the factories. There's a lot of upfront costs before you can be reaping a profit. The development of factories, as well as advances in technology, will also increase the standard of living for many Americans, and we see the growth of the middle class. We also see the rise in cities. In the 1820s, 90% of Americans lived on farms, so 9 out of 10 people. By 1860, in the northern states, think the states that do not rely on slavery, 25% of the northern population lived in cities. So we're seeing a trend of people moving to the cities to find factory and wage labor jobs. All right, that's all of the slides for today. You want to make sure that you complete your exit ticket and submit any questions that you have. Have a good day.